Three, two, one. This is Dean with the Two Party Podcast, and I'm on here, and I'm going to try to say your name, Ullis Karlsson.
Yeah, that's actually pretty good. My name, it's a nickname. It's Ullis.
Ullis, okay.
Yeah.
I was close. I've messed up a lot of guest names in the past. We've had a lot of like really long names, and some of the Indian names kind of get me. So I've had a few where I'm like, I don't know if I can say that one, but we're here with Ullis Karlsson, and she's in holistic disciplines, spiritual guidance, and increasing consciousness. I'm looking at her website as I'm talking with her. She has a book out that's called 2:47 a.m. The Journey Home to My Heart. She has many tailor-made programs. And I'm going to let her go ahead and take over, introduce herself, and just explain some of these things that she does. Go ahead, Ullis.
Thank you, Dean, and nice to be here, and thanks for the opportunity.
Yep.
So, I'm all the way from Stockholm, Sweden. So for many of Americans, I guess it's pretty exotic. I was just telling Dean that it's pitch dark out here.
Yeah, we could see your background too, and it is. It's that 3 p.m. darkness would get me.
Yeah, it does. So and it all started like 12 years ago. Well, actually, it started when I was a kid. I was always a very sensitive kid, and I didn't know it at the time, but also an empath. But at the time, as a child, and I had to adapt and conform. That's like a typical Swedish word, to adapt and to be conformed. Yeah. And so, I lived my life, and things went on. And 12 years ago, the year of 2008, I was really, really depressed and burned out and suicidal. And so it was like a struggle, between actually life and death every day. And so my first book, the one that you mentioned, 2:47 a.m., The Journey Home to My Heart, that's about my long journey, coming back to sanity and coming back to health. And so it's written in English because as I started to write it like 15 years ago, but it was so heavy, so I couldn't finish it. And then I got a book coach like a year and a half ago, and she told me, you have to do it in English, because this book is going to inspire a lot of people that suffers from mental illnesses or depression. So it needs to be in English. So I did, and I get the question sometimes. So how could it be so bad that you got so depressed and burn out? Because I was living a life that apparently I had everything. I had a beautiful family. I had a nice job as a physiotherapist. And a personal trainer, and I was traveling a lot. And I say to these people when they ask me that, I didn't know it at the time, but my whole journey has been about coming back home to my heart and to be realigned with my soul. I have lived my whole life not being aligned with who I am at soul level. And I have been, as I told you, very sensitive and a lot of emotions that haven't been expressed.
Right.
So
kind of holding them in.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. So all these stress and emotions and traumas that I haven't been through or
processed and dealt
with.
Yeah.
So it was like living in a volcano, like I was always
ready to just
explode. Exactly. Yeah. But I never did as a Swede.
Yeah, always just held it in.
Yeah. So and one day 12 years ago now, I really came to a point where it was about life and death, and it started with a link in my mailbox. And from there, it has led me to where I am now.
So quite a journey for 12 years. We talk a lot. You're new to the show, but if you're familiar with a few of our past episodes, almost every guest we have on, we talk a little bit about mental health. That's something that's close to my heart. We talk about self-help. We talk about helping others. We talk about kindness because the world needs it. Those are things I like to talk and bring up to every guest on our show. It just happens to be that your story falls right into what we find in the world that a lot of people deal with. You can be depression and anxiety and these emotions. They're not select to one type of person. It can be everybody. You can be the most successful person in the world and be the most lonely, miserable person in the world, and not know how to express or cope with it. And so depression affects everybody. I think suicide is one that's hit home with me personally this year. I've had eight good friends of mine that I've grown up with that have either overdosed on drugs this year or committed suicide. Just this year alone. And so it's been kind of a roller coaster of a year for me. But I've been through my past. I expose a little bit of my past on certain episodes and as we go along in the show. But I have a very, very, very traumatic childhood, a very, very traumatic life that I've lived. I've experienced some things that were just, I wouldn't wish it upon anybody to witness some of the things I've seen in my life. But those things, I've been fortunate enough to start working on those things and through counseling and stuff growing up. My mom was, I was very thankful to have a mom that put me in counseling to address some of the things she did. And then also, as I finally got through some of my, I guess I call it my midlife crisis at an early age, I started to take a look in the mirror at who I was. And that's where my journey has me now. For probably the past 6 to 7 years, I've really been taking a look at myself and the things that I want to remove that are not healthy for me, and the things that I feel are healthy and I need to improve on them and mold them better. So I've had a big kind of a self-improvement journey, but at the same time, it also has been a journey kind of like yours, where I'm just trying to keep sane. I'm trying to find outlets and maintain being a good father, being a good husband, being a good friend, which I never was. I was always that person that would sabotage relationships because I wasn't the best version of me, I guess, is in a nutshell. And so that's why, hearing what you're talking about hits home, because we talk a lot about mental health on the show, because I think everybody in the world at some level deals with it. No matter that the happiest person in the world has some level of stress or maybe depression.
Yes, I'm sorry to hear that your friends, that you lost so many of your friends this year. It's been really a chaotic year, and I was actually writing a blog about it the other week. And if I look in the numbers of 2020 in numerology, it means that it's the year of the heart. Actually, it's the year of the heart, and it's the year where we can build bridges, going from fear, transforming fears into love. And I think that what you're telling me, and what we've seen globally in the world, or at least in the Western world,
for sure,
today, has been a lot about fears and worries and stress. And I also believe that we in the Western countries or Western societies, we have so much stress, and we don't even know about it because it lies within our subconscious mind.
We're kind of almost ingrained. We're almost taught from a young age to deal with it. Just deal with it.
Exactly.
And so we just kind of move forward without processing it.
Exactly. And so I'm a yogi, and I've been studying yoga and holistic disciplines for over 28 years. And Buddha, which means the enlightened one, he really, came across the big insight or the big wisdom, which his whole religion is based upon. And he said, actually, this is not a religion. This is wisdom from the source. So it's not about religion, in believing in God. But he was saying that the things that are causing suffering for us human beings are our longing for, we have these cravings for more money, a better body, a better job, a better something. And these cravings always takes us away from present moment, right?
Yeah.
And then we also have another thing on the opposite side that is causing us a lot of suffering, and that's the aversion. So we have the cravings and we have the aversions, which means that I try to avoid strong feelings, or try to avoid bad situations, whatever that might be.
Yep.
And I'm might have so much avoidance and resistance to my own feelings or my own subconscious mind. So I'm always running.
Yeah.
So, and we are moving between these polarities. We are moving from going somewhere and wanting to leave something, which means that we are never here. We are never here.
It's almost, we're always in a fight or flight mode, almost in an always in almost a feer mode.
Yeah. And we have so much of this within us. It is like 95% is from our unconscious minds. So we only have 5% consciousness. And from these 5% consciousness, we think, or we are in the illusion that we make conscious choices, like, the partners that I'm choosing. Why am I ending up with maybe partners that are using or abusing me? Or what is my relationship to money, to sex, to myself, whatever? Because as well as we inherit, I have green eyes, so green eyes from my parents and blonde hair, we also inherit their stress that they haven't resolved in previous lifetimes. So not only do I have the stress,
the stuff you pick up as you're going through life, you carry that you carry your parents as well, and even the environmental from growing up.
Exactly. And this is all in our subconscious or unconscious mind, the 95%. And this is the programs that we have. Like, I know in your country, it is very important to earn a lot of money and to be successful and to be something.
It is. And it's, for some, it really is. And it used to be for me when I was younger. These days, it's, I guess life has new meaning for me, because I'm at a point where I like giving to others more than I even take care of myself sometimes. I always have that balance of self-care, but I enjoy more helping other people these days.
Yeah, that's very good. But that's also...
that's kind of part of it.
Yeah, actually it is. And I've been writing 3 books. The second book is unfortunately in Swedish, but it's about embracing feminine leadership. And regardless if I'm a man or a woman, we all have yin and yang qualities within us. And these qualities are needed for us to be whole and holy. And if there's too much focus on like one thing or the other, it causes imbalance. It's not a whole, it's unbalanced.
It doesn't work together, and that causes more problems.
Exactly. And again, if I take our countries as an example, we live so much, but what I called as immature and unconscious feminine, and immature and unconscious masculine principles. So one principle that could be the immature feminine essence could be clinging on, holding on to my beliefs, holding on to my, my weight, my body, my looks, my appearance, my money.
Superficial things, really.
Exactly. And also holding on to all these emotions, because as we know, emotions literally means energy in motion. So emotions is supposed to be moving through us. We are supposed to be feeling our emotions. But I don't know how it's for you in the States, but here in Sweden, we are very groomed not to show too many strong emotions, or to be too happy, too sad, too angry, too horny, or whatever. It's always like, like an average. We have to be average everywhere. And if you look historically, the people here in Sweden and Scandinavia that didn't want to stay with this mindset, they went to America in the big immigration. And the people, that were stuck in scarcity and a lot of fear, no, that's not going to end well, and no, we can't take that risk. They got stuck here.
They just said, we'll stay. We're gonna take the easy road and just be comfortable. But
the question is it the easy road? Because all these fears and all these worries that we have created, in our lives now or previous lifetime.
It's almost self-inflicted pain.
Yep. And so it comes back to what Buddha is talking about with the cravings or the aversions. Like we continue to work hard, and this is essence of the immature masculine essence: to be good at work, to have high grades, to have a high education. You can even hear it in the language that it's this strive for always moving forward or upwards.
To be the top, to be the best.
Yeah, so these are the immature essences of the feminine and the masculine, which is causing a lot of suffering. And there's
a lot of insecurity too, I believe.
Yeah, for sure. And so I truly believe that this year of 2020 is a year to actually open our hearts and to increase our consciousness, to take that bridge from fears and worries and stress and transform it into love and light and whatever it is that I'm looking for in my life.
Yeah.
So we need to raise the vibration. We need to be aware and raise the mature, the conscious feminine principle, which is love. Love and compassion for myself and for others. Because if I don't have love and compassion for myself, how can I possibly show it to others?
Right.
It's all starting with me, right?
Yeah.
And this is what I've learned during my quite tough journey, that, there's no escape, there's no shortcuts. You really, really, really have to turn inwards and really face everything that you are scared of, or everything that you have tried to hide away or push down or suppressed. Because there's a lot of energy. Since I'm an energy worker, everything is energy, right? This conversation is energy.
Yeah.
Every thought that I'm having is energy. Everything that I do from my thoughts, every actions I take is energy.
Yeah.
And again, so if the energy is stuck, if it's not moving, like the emotions that are being suppressed, maybe from traumas, or we have all had heartaches, and this comes with life. But I've also had quite a stressful upbringing. But so the thing is, I really feel that we need to walk the bridge from outwards inwards, to face ourselves and to transform our fears and worries. And that's when we can transform it into love and light.
It makes a lot of sense, and a very strong point you made that kind of caught my attention is speaking on 2020 and how we've had a lot of countries are different with the way they've been locked down and handled this whole pandemic thing. But it has, what I found is that it's given me an opportunity to be closer with my family. It's actually given me more time to do more self-reflection. Because as we were discussing, I've been on a journey of my own, and I'm trying to. I spoke with a guest yesterday that I was interviewing, and we had a great conversation about just positive energy and perception. And one of the things we spoke about was, one of my biggest fears in my entire life, I've never feared anything. And I can honestly, there's as a child, or just emotionally, there's things and dangers that you fear, but I've never had a real fear of anything other than looking at myself, if that makes any sense. I've always had this thing in life where, like, I was always the funny guy. I was always I could always walk into a crowd and talk to anybody, and I was always very open and very accepting to people. And I was very caring. I always thought of myself as very caring, but I found out when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't as caring as I thought. And so it literally, my biggest fear that I've had in life was facing who I am and what I am.
Exactly.
And this past literally 6-7 years that I've really taken this journey to stand the mirror up right in front of myself and say, who is this person? Why do you do what you do? Who are you? Who do you want to be? And that journey started, it literally started with a hardship. It started with my son and I literally traveling across the United States homeless. My son was 5 years old. I had lost my job. I had nowhere to go, had just previously split up from a relationship that wasn't working out. We just kind of grew apart. And I found myself homeless with full custody of my son and not knowing what to do. And one day when I finally broke down and really started, looking at things, that was what it was. It was the fear of, what am I looking at here? What am I doing? Who is this person that's controlling a child's life and my life, and potentially putting us in danger, And so it really, that was the beginning of a journey for me, where it was like, you're either going to continue to go downhill with this, or you have an opportunity to look in the mirror, face the fear, which is just facing failure, facing what is good and bad that you do and in your life. And that's where my journey really started. And each day is different. Each day has gotten better. I can honestly say I am never going to probably be 100%, and I don't expect to be each day. I expect each day to be better than yesterday, and that's my goal.
Yeah, and I really feel that, as you're saying, Dean, I think it comes to this point. It boils down to this point where each and one of us individually really has to do the work, the inner work. It's nothing you can read about.
No, and like you said, there is no shortcuts.
There's no shortcuts,
and it is difficult at times.
Yeah, and believe me, I really I had so many strategies trying to navigate, away from all this, steering away in aversions from all of this. And my biggest fear for me personally is that I've never been, good enough. So that's why I, pushed myself harder and harder so I could be good and, good girl in school, good grades, and to do everything right.
Yeah.
And so my biggest fears have been not to be, loved, to fail, and to not to be included. So I've always also have a lot of strategies. At one point in my life, I always was the funny one. I was the funny one too. And I realize now when I look, that was also a strategy for me.
Yeah.
To shield myself from what I thought was others, judgment, while it was my own judgment that I was never good enough with others or compared with others. So I always had to push myself so goddamn hard, really. So I become suicidal. And this is also what we have in our genes. And this is, now it's becoming really interesting. So my last book that came out now in August, it's called Holy Fuck in Sacred Water.
Nice.
The secret connections to everything.
Very cool.
And in this book, we really address on how all these things that we are talking about, how they are stored within the body. I mean, because none of us do consciously want to make, bad choices for ourselves or for our kids. It's not like when I was a kid that I dreamed about, when I grow up, I want to be depressed and suicidal.
Exactly.
But how come that we end up there? It all has to do with, we contain of 70% of water. Our bodies contains of 70% of water. So every thought that you are having is being traveled and transported through water and into your cells, and they contain water. Your DNA contain water. And within your DNA, this is my perception. I'm not saying this is the absolute truth, but it could be. But so in the DNA, where the water is, all the memories of who you have been in previous life. Because if I am just merely energy, and energy never dies, that means that in previous lifetime, I might have been a soldier or a perpetrator. I have also been a victim. So many of us old souls that have, reincarnated according to the yogic philosophy, we have both been perpetrators and victims. And the whole spectrum between, and everything is stored within you, within the water. And that's also why it's so essential to really clear out, your inner, because emotions is the element of water. So when you clear out and you move the energy of your emotions, so you're clearing out a lot of things that you have been stored unconsciously. And in these times, this 2020, which is really the year of the global awakening, and as we talked about, the year of the heart, but just look around. I mean, we are, they really, really, really put a lot of pressure on us and a lot of fear, and we are walking around with masks and lockdown.
I think we're facing something around the world that as a society we've never faced. There's nobody that can say, yeah, we've been through this because this isn't like the past plagues or the past pandemics we've had. This is really a whole new thing because we're living in a day and age of technology. It is a whole new thing that none of us have experienced. We're all actually going through it together for the first time. And I think that's what makes it so stressful and so fearful.
Yeah, it is. And also, like, who is gaining?
Correct.
Honestly, who is gaining on keeping us small and scared?
Yep.
And who owns the media?
Yeah. The propaganda.
Yeah. And I mean, the election now in the US, some people claim that it's been a fraud.
Yeah, it's a mess here.
And all of these things in the outer sphere or the outer realms, they are only mirroring our inner realms, what we need to deal with, all the anxieties, worries, and fears that I myself are carrying, because I wouldn't see it out there if I didn't feel it or didn't have it in me.
Yeah.
And so nobody's going to come to save you. There's not a white knight that is coming to save you.
I learned that lesson. Yeah, I learned that lesson many years ago that I am going to be the victor of the choices I make. So when something goes wrong in my life, there's nobody swooping in to save Dean. There's nobody coming in to just say, oh, well, let me help you out. There's people that will help me. And I can ask for help, but at the end of the day, when I get myself into something or I'm dealing with something, the only person that mentally can deal with it is me.
Yes, and you're so right. But many people, they don't think like this. And that's why also they have this limited mind, because they think that it's somebody else's fault. It's somebody else's fault that this is happening. Yeah. And then it's not taking radical responsibility. So if I get the opportunity, I just want to share with you what this book is about. So let me read for you.
For sure.
So holy fuck and sacred water, the secret connections to everything. Holy fuck and sacred water, the secret connections to everything is bold, cocky, politically and socially incorrect. It is divinely channeled and imprinted with sacred codes. This book will either have you say, fuck yeah, or it will piss you off, or maybe even both. This book is not for the common man or common woman. It is for the new generation of the brave, passionate, and curious beings who know they came to Earth to make a difference, and they are ready to take action now. A new era has arrived, and with that, more confusion and fear than ever before. This book reactivates the path of releasing the old so we can co-create a new and thriving future together. It contains very raw and vulnerable personal stories, scientific information, ancient wisdom, taboo topics, and conspiracy theories. This book can help you to understand the importance of purifying your own inner water and using your passionate fire to live your true potential. So holy fuck and sacred water could be considered a theory of everything. Life is a multidimensional journey to master empowerment, freedom, and flow in our everyday lives. We can master these by unifying our inner spark with the sacred water. This then creates the magical life force within us all, what we call the holy fuck.
So what was the inspiration for that third book? I know we've talked about a lot, and I'm sure that's part of it, but what was the actual inspiration for that book?
It is, so to just answer that question a little longer with the story, it's like, so in the year I've been writing these 3 books. And the second book about the feminine leadership, it's actually 17 different women from different positions in society, leading positions in society, that I was asked to write a chapter about feminine leadership. And as I say, feminine leadership is also within a man, within a male body. Yeah. So in that book, on a call, I actually was saying, like, okay, so the next book we're going to write is going to have to be about sexual sacred sexuality,
Yep.
and the sacredness and the holiness around us. Yes. And then somebody else that I didn't know, she caught this on the tape, on the recorded tape, that I said the next book will be on sacred sexuality. And she had so many reactions, physically and emotional reactions when she heard it. So she reached out to me and she said, you and we are going to write this book together. So it's with my beautiful co-creator, Tora Sofia Silverhoy. And so we wrote this book during the whole, 2020 with all the things, crazy things going on. And when we had the book release now in August, we had never seen each other before. So that was the first time that I saw her. She's a Swede, but she lives in Denmark.
Yeah.
And this book came to grow upon us because we started only intentionally to write about sacred sexuality and the importance of to allow it to become sacred again. Because also, if we know in the Western society, and if we look, like porn and sex have become so polluted.
Right.
And our young, teenagers and kids, they watch Pornhub at home.
Their view of what two intimate beings or being together is so warped.
Yeah, it's distorted. It's so distorted. And that's also in the unconscious and subconscious mind. And this is also very damaging. This is damaging for both the feminine essence and the masculine essence, and for us as human beings, because it disconnects us when we watch too much porn or, are too much into abusive sex without consent, I have to say. Yeah. It's numbing us, and it's getting distortions. And so young people might think that this is the way it is.
Right. Like this is what everybody must be doing.
Yeah. But all the sacredness and the holiness is not there. It's creating this gap, this division.
Right.
And this disconnection from heart to myself, my relationship with myself and my own sexuality, and to share it with somebody. But so, as I said, this book really grow upon us, because first we really thought it was going to be about sexuality, but then when we were writing and along the way, we really discovered that this could be, as we say, the truth or theory of everything, if you choose to have these glasses on and this perception. Because if you also look in the world, you see the continent contains of 2/3 water. And the water has such a profound importance for us as people. For our veggies to grow, for us to drink, and it's transporting people from countries or continents together. So the water is also really the feminine essence, and again connecting to emotions and to spirit. So when we connect with our inner sacredness, and when we clear out all the shitty stuff, the shadows or the wounds, the traumas from ourselves and our DNAs, that's when you need the water to cleanse it out.
Right.
So this book really grew upon us, and when we finished it, it was so much more important and bigger than we would have ever expected.
And that's when it became a holy fuck moment.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. I mean, we're living through this holy fuck year, and so you have this holy fuck moment of like, wow, we just wrote something that's completely profound, that's completely amazing. And I can't wait. I'm always busy and I don't have a lot of time to read, but every guest that comes on that has books that they're sharing, I try to find time to look into the books, and I will look into that. That's great. I want to read your first book because I want to know a little bit about your journey. Is really, to me, that's important. I like to get to know people, not just from on the show, but I like to get to know people, personally. And that's why I started the show, is because I like to have what we're missing in society, I believe, is that connect, like you were talking about, that connection. People are no longer intentional. Nobody, when you pass an employee or a friend in passing, it's usually a how's your day or a hi, how you doing? And then you go about your business. There's nothing intentional in that. There's no actual meaty conversation. There's nothing genuine. And I find that the more our society has become fast paced, obviously with this year kind of slowing down with the pandemic, but even now people are, very disconnected. There's no intentional, I remember growing up and we'd have friends or relatives that would call our house all the time and check on us. And even nowadays, you don't really get that. You get a text message, how you doing? I haven't heard from you in a while. And yeah, I mean, they may be thinking about you, but is it an intentional conversation to catch up? Is it a genuine from the heart emotional feeling where you're connecting as two beings, discussing something or just discussing life, but we don't have that intentional and genuine conversations in our lives anymore. It's all about how fast can we get through something.
Exactly. Exactly, Dean. And when we do that, we lose, when we are in speed or in activity or in movement all the time, we lose something so important, something so vital. So it is like we are running away from ourselves. We are leaving our souls behind, and we are being, it's like sometimes I describe it as an inner emptiness, an inner hole. And I try to find to fill this inner emptiness or with outer things,
with temporary things.
But so I'm looking for the wrong things in the wrong place. I need to fill my inner hole with myself, with my presence, with my with my whole spectra, from my blackest and darkest moments to my brightest moments. And so in my books, I really reveal and I write really, vulnerable and from these dark places. For me, it's also so important because if we don't look upon the darkness, how can we look on the light? Because they make this yin and yang. They are
it is a balance. I mean, and total balance within our world, balance within the universe. It is what it is.
Exactly. And in this book, we also go from micro perspective, like me in my body and you in your body, and we move out to the space to Big Bang. Everything, like also quantum physics is talking about, everything is entangled. I can sense your energy, even though that you're sitting 6 hours time wise away from me, and many miles, and in totally different continent, totally different culture, but I sense your energy since we are here connected in this present moment. And I can only speak for myself, but I'm in my heart, and I sense that you are in your heart right now as well. But so when we are running away and moving around, and when we are disconnecting from ourselves, this is, oh my God, I could talk so much about this, because really, if we move back, historically and centuries away, we have for many hundreds of years being disconnected to the earth, to Gaia, to our mother. Without her, we wouldn't have a home, right? So we have disconnected us from her, which means that we are using her and abusing her. We are polluting her with our lifestyles. We don't live close to nature.
And that's another thing. We don't. People just aren't in tune with nature anymore at all.
Exactly. And if you're not in tune with nature, and nature consists of the same elements as we as human beings, according to the yogic perspective, like the earth, the water, the fire, the air. So these are elements that we, are built of. And if we are not connected to Mother Earth, how can we be connected to ourselves? So for thousands of years, the energy has moved from Gaia and through us, and as in the ascending flow. I was talking about it before. We want to be something, we want to rise, we want to have higher salary and higher careers. So we have been in the ascending, immature, masculine essence for so long, which has created the gap from Gaia and us, right? So we need to work with the descending flow, which goes down, the manifesting flow, like the way you are, delivering a baby. It is in the descending, the feminine flow, reconnecting with Gaia, by reconnecting to myself, to this physical body that I'm here in, that my soul is in. So by working with the descending flow, we create the balance of the ascending and the descending, and they meet in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
That's where they meet. So this is the center where the feminine and the masculine
come together. Yeah.
And the Swedish word for spirit is andetag, and it's translated to breath.
Okay.
So the Swedish word for spirit is both breath and spirit. So when you take andetag, when you take a breath, you are connecting with spirit. You allow spirit to flow through you on your inhalation to make you expand and to grow as a human being, and then also to release and to let it go. Yeah. And many people today, they have no clue on how they are breathing or the importance of the breathing. So this is what I'm talking about in all my classes or courses or educations, and write about in my books, because since we have lost the connection to Gaia and to ourselves, our breathing has been constricted and limited.
And now we have to wear masks.
Yes. And what is going
now
on?
Now it's one more, we have to wear a mask.
Yeah. And what happens when you have a mask?
It's hindering your breathing.
Yes.
It's restricting things, good oxygen and air to come in.
And actually you are inhaling your own toxics that are supposed to flow out and being taken care of by the universe.
Yeah.
So you are inhaling your own toxics.
Exhaust, essentially, it's like a car that's just recycling itself. Exhaust right into the intake, and it's crazy. You hear everybody talks of, nobody knows. We're in a thing that this is a first time thing. Nobody knows. You hear medical science telling you one thing. You hear other people telling you another thing. Researchers are telling you the mask works, the masks don't work. But at the end of the day, the argument for people like myself and people like you, the argument really boils down to self-care and what's good and healthy for me. Because as an individual, I don't really, not to dismiss science in any way, shape, or form, but I'm going to dismiss science if I feel it's not healthy for myself.
Yes.
And again, I guess as Americans, we always, here in America, we have the freedom. But do we really have the freedom? Not really. We have the freedom. We have just enough freedom to feel like we have freedom. And then the government tells us what we have to do, or our local government. And so it's kind of like the science itself. I as much as I want to be healthy and protect my family and keep everybody around me that I love healthy and contribute to keeping the community good, I'm not going to do anything that I feel is going to restrict my individual life. Exactly. I'm not going to wear a mask in my home like people are talking about now. I don't see any point in that.
No.
And to me, it's unhealthy for me. I know I'm not only just uncomfortable with it, it is restrictive.
Yes.
And no matter what the study or science shows, for me as an individual, I don't feel it's healthy.
Yes. And science, some claim that science also is created as a division, as a divide.
Yeah.
Because everything that, we are children of Gaia, of Mother Earth. We come from her, we stem from her, we have the same elements as her. And when we are moving too far from what is natural,
right,
and it becomes unnatural, it says, it's really, and so when you have the masks, what's really happening, and now I might, offend somebody, and that is not my intention. I come from a holistic
I offend people every day.
Yeah. So I come from this holistic perspective, and also from the yogic perspective.
Yep.
But what happens when I have this mask on, it is that I actually become a bit, dumber. My brain become foggier because I'm not getting the oxygen.
You're not getting the oxygen in the air.
And I'm not releasing the toxics. Right. So this makes me even more afraid and worried and constricted.
Right.
And just ask yourself this question, Dean: who is really gaining money on this whole thing? And who is gaining money by creating the vaccine? Because if we eat healthy, and we know, science shows, and yogic perspective shows, and all the natural inhabitants of the earth that are living aligned with nature knows that being together is good for the health. It's good for the immune system, and being outdoors is good. So why are we being given these restrictions that we know that is not good for us?
Yeah, because we're designed to interact. We're designed to have companionship.
So who gains this? And I'm just telling you guys that if you following the money, as always, you're gonna make some really interesting findings.
Yeah, it's interesting to me, you know, like I said, I'm very in tune with my body, and even through, you know, I used to not take good care of myself, used to drink a lot, I was an addict at one point, using substances I really shouldn't have, not very good with my body. I eat a lot healthier now. I work out. I'm a lot more in tune now, physically, mentally, and spiritually. I have more of a unity going on than I've ever had. So I feel better now, and I'm very in tune with, like, I know when I'm getting sick or when my body's fighting something. I know it, and I'll tell my wife I need to get some more vitamin C. I need to get something in me because I can feel my body not well. It's amazing to me that we're designed that way, and the world is designed that way. You know, when a forest burns down, it promotes new growth, and so it heals itself. And just like our body is designed to react to things, our body's designed to heal itself. At the same time, our body lets us know, if I inhale something, if I'm in a job site and I inhale dust, my body instinctively wants to cough. And that's my body saying, this is no good for me. And so, you know, it's kind of like you were just saying, you're inhaling and exhaling your own, you know, breath and exhaust, and it's your body at some point with like oxygen deprivation, your body starts shutting down organs because it says it reacts to, like, this is not good for me. And so I need to change the dynamic and balance. I need to rebalance things out, but according to what I'm intaking. And that's, you know, when I hear this, people talk about the science and you have to wear the mask and these are the things that are healthy for you in your home. I'm like, I just can't get on board with that, because my body tells me something different. And as a being, my body, I'm going to listen to my body. And if my body says I'm in an environment that's unhealthy, or I'm drinking, let's say I'm drinking alcohol and I drink too much, my body's going to let me know by getting sick. And when, you know, in the middle of this pandemic, we're dealing with people that we have higher depression rates, higher suicide rates. The fear, just the fear of the unknown has caused people to have other mental problems and anxiety. So we know our body's telling us. I don't need to hear the science of it. I need to know that my body, my well-being feels right, or else this isn't good for me.
Exactly. But this is the way. This is exactly. I totally agree with you, Dean. But here's the thing. From thousands of years, we have been programmed to believe in authorities, to believe like media or government or whatever, because we put our trust in it. And you know,
and we're not supposed to question it. We're just told that's the truth.
Yes, exactly. And you go to school and there's a system,
they teach you a certain thing.
You should obey and you should conform and adapt. But here's the thing, like exactly as you say. So if I am disconnected to my body, if I'm just a big head, a problem solver, always thinking ahead, always striving towards something, in this urge of avoidance or cravings, aversions or cravings, moving towards something or moving towards or from something. And if I'm disconnected from my body, from my heart, and I'm just, you know, in this mental energy. So even though my body gives me signs and information and it's communicating with me all the time, many of us, myself included, when I was sick and when I was depressed, I wasn't experienced to listen to my body because I only listened to my mind. And my mind said, no, you need to keep on, or you're not good, or, you know, such a harsh judge really inside of myself. And I was listening to that and not to my body. So my body had symptoms way before I got so sick.
And sometimes we don't recognize those.
Exactly. And so here's the thing, that there's so many of us living today that are this disconnected from our bodies. So even though that the bodies are telling us this is not good, we still believe what somebody else is telling us because, hey, that's the media or that's the government. They're going to save me. They know what they're talking about. and I put my trust in their hands. But we need, again, the metaphor is to bring it back to you, because you are a sovereign being. You are free. You know what's best for you.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, I always want to do right by, you know, obviously my family. I obviously don't want to be breaking these laws that we live by, or according to our local governments and whatnot. But at the end of the day, you know, for me, it's always been about making sure that I'm healthy, making sure that I'm okay. And I didn't realize, you know, it took me, I'll be 45 in February. So it's taken me many, many years to get to the point where I am. And it's, you know, it's taken me through, like you said, lots of depression, lots of anxiety, lots of hardships, lots of losses, to finally come to a point where I'm like, I have to take care of myself.
Exactly.
And I have to, not only what I'm taking in, and that's not just my food, that's my thoughts, it's what I'm hearing, what I'm listening to, what my environment, what I'm surrounding myself with.
Exactly.
Am I bringing in good information, or am I bringing in negative information that potentially can harm harm everything about me? When you have somebody feeding you just negative, the chances are you're going to react negatively. And for me, it's always been, number one, I have to be okay for the people I love. So I have to be okay with myself first. I have to take care of myself. Me and my wife kind of butt heads a little bit on that, from her upbringing and my upbringing. And for me, I've always been a survivor, and I've always been a person that has overcome challenges. Sometimes it's taken me longer to get through them, but sometimes I can get right through them, because especially now that I'm older, because I can cope a little different with things. I don't handle them out of anger. I don't handle them with emotion. I handle them with the intellect, but then I sit back and I'll reason on it a little bit. Whereas when I was younger, that was not how I handled things at all. And so for me, it's always like, well, if I'm not doing okay, I'm not going to be of service to anybody around me.
That is so true. That is so true. Because as you say in your own words, like, what am I, you know, taking in? What am I giving to myself? Am I being hard on myself? Am I being, you know, unforgivable? Or am I being really judgmental or critical or negative towards myself? So what am I filling up myself with? Is it coming from love or fear? Because basically we only have two emotions.
Yes.
And everything else stems from it. So we have love or fear. But you and I, our societies, it comes from fear. It's fear-based societies. And this is what this whole, you know, because even the Maya could predict this, and people in nature and yogic perspective, that things are gonna change. From the year of 2012, that was the year that the Maya calendar ended, and they say that, oh, it's going to be the end of the world.
Right.
No, it's not going to be the end of the world, but our ego.
Going to be a change.
Exactly. Our egos need to die. Our egos need to die and to rise up again, like the bird phoenix rises from the ash. So if I am not filling myself with good stuff for myself, what am I letting out to others? In what energy am I, you know, what energy am I giving? Like the breath, inhale, what am I inhaling? And what am I exhaling? What's the energy that I inhale? If it's only being negative, and, you know, you're not good enough and you should strive harder, or you should have a better body and you should earn more money, blah, blah, blah. You know, it can go on and on. So if this is the shit that I'm inhaling, that's the shit that I'm going to exhale.
It's coming out. Correct. Yeah. 100%.
And I cannot save anybody but myself. So exactly, if I am saving myself and giving myself all this energy, this love, this commitment, this time, the money I've invested millions of, you know, in my own rehab just to be alive. And because if I don't, who will? Who will? And then from this place where I am whole, where I have healed my inner whole and become whole, then I can give without being drained.
Right. That makes total sense. You know, I think of, like, growing up, I always do remember there was always this thing with my mom. And my mom, you know, my mom and dad got divorced when we were young. My mom was a single mother who raised me and my sister, and she did the best of her ability, which she went right from an abusive situation with my father. She moved us across the country to Oregon, and she decided, I'm going to go back to school. And she went back to school and she became a nurse. She became the first woman firefighter in Bonita, Oregon, which was amazing.
Cool.
That was a great
Yeah.
achievement. And then she became an emergency room nurse, and then she worked for a lot of medical places. But during that whole time, then she became a teacher at the college. And so she just really took it upon herself. I was very proud of her as a single mom, what she did, the sacrifices she made to make sure my sister and I didn't have any more abusive relationship things going on in our lives. And the one thing I do remember, though, is that she sacrificed a lot for us. But one of the things she always did was she always did for herself. And it was, you know, we as kids, we always were like, oh, she bought herself some chocolate, or, you know, it was always, we looked at it kind of as kids in an immature mind state, kind of looking at it like, how selfish of her not to get us a toy, or how selfish of her. But what I always learned as I got older and respected about it is that you have to take care of yourself as an adult. There is a moment in time where, you know, a lot of people are like, I do everything I do for my kids. I do everything I do for the house. I do everything I do to pay my bills. But what do you do for yourself?
Exactly.
And my mom really did set a good example. And me and my sister have had discussions about how my mom was selfish back in the day. And it was like, no, she wasn't really. She was actually taking time for herself and giving herself things that at the end of the day, she deserved as a mother. And at the end of the day, she deserved as a human being. And it's things she wanted, and it's things she paid for. And so it really, you know, we still live in a society where it's like, you know, we work, we have a nice house, we work, we have a nice TV, you know, but at the end of the day, you work and you never even get to enjoy those things. You're never home enough to enjoy those things, you know, except for this year, maybe. But then, you know, you spend all this money on this nice big TV, and what comes through the TV? It's just negative. You know, there's not really a lot of things you pull off of a TV, whether you're watching the news, depends on what you're watching. But there's just, you know, you're working so hard to get this stuff and this material, and it really is meaningless. And then, you know, a lot of people work their whole lives off, 40-hour, 50-hour week for 365 days a year. They get a couple holidays off. And by the time they know it, they're 60, 70 years old, ready for retirement. And they didn't get to enjoy anything that they paid for.
No. And I just want to go back to your example with your mom. Like, if we do it as a metaphor also, like if you are a bank account,
yep,
and you only withdrawing money, you know, withdrawing money, time, energy to everybody else, you're serving everybody else.
Yep.
But so what happens eventually when you're just doing withdrawal and you're not doing putting money into the account? So you become bankruptcy, right? Yeah. And it's the same with us as energy beings, as energetic beings. If I am draining my energy, you know, having the wrong kind of mindset, being abusive towards myself or others, because a difference in the yin energy and the yang energy, I'm not talking about female or male, but in the yin and yang, is that the energy of the yin is introverted.
Yeah.
So many women then, because we have more yin in our physical bodies, we hurt ourselves more, like we inflict ourselves more damage with our thoughts, or, you know, being suicidal or self-sabotage behavior. But for many with more yang energy, like in male bodies, they can hurt others. You know, they can abuse others, and at the same time they're abusing themselves.
Right.
So you can never harm anybody else.
I used to always call it self-inflicted pain, or self-induced torture is what I used to call it. And I used to, when I was younger, I used to laugh about it and tell people, you know, hey, I'm just going to go out this weekend and do some self-induced torture, and you know, drink, party, fight, whatever it was. And at the end of the day, you know, I was never happy. You know, I remember to this day, I can remember that feeling that I had when I was in those moments, and it was never good. It was never, I never felt that at those times I was never happy. I was never content. If anything, like we talked about earlier, it was putting up a shield. It was to prevent people from really knowing how I was feeling about myself.
Yeah. And here is the thing: if I am being abusive to myself, whether it's that I'm inflicting myself or other damage, whether it's verbal, mental, physical, emotional, sexual, whatever. And this is also what we see in the bigger perspective, how we treat Gaia. As we talked about, we are polluting her, polluting her waters. Our lifestyles, is draining her from energy. We are sucking energy. We are withdrawing from Gaia's bank account. And what do we put in?
Right.
We want new phones, new cars, new renovated kitchens, Botox lips.
And it all costs resources.
Exactly. And all these things takes us even further away from the natural living and from Gaia and from ourselves. So it's massive. And when I heal myself, and I teach these to others, it's like creating, we call it rings, like rips on the water. Yeah. And you can do it, with not love, but from fear. So either you create ripples from fear,
right,
or you can create from love. And this is the choice we all have to do. And this is the year that we really need to stop and to reflect upon. So what am I contributing with? How am I damaging Gaia? How am I polluting myself or the earth?
Yeah.
Because I cannot only pollute myself or abuse myself or others, because we are all always entangled. So every single action that we do has bigger effects.
Yeah.
This is why it's so important that we really need to wake up. This is a global wake-up call. Wake up. Who are you? As you said in the beginning, who are you? Who do you want to be? Who do you want to live? I mean, it doesn't matter if you have all the money in the bank account and a beautiful body, if there's no planet left.
Right. Yeah. And one of my things that I speak about a lot on the show is we hear a lot about people saying, what is the legacy I left behind? When I get to that point where I'm on my deathbed and I'm going to die and pass away, people reflect on, you're like, oh, well, let's look at his legacy. Let's look at what he did. I always, I look at this, I guess, the smaller scale of things, and I look at what my legacy is each day. And so I talk a lot about that with my guests, and I literally focus every day to be my legacy. So today when I wake up, what is my legacy with my son? What is my legacy with my wife? What is my interactions with them? What is my interactions once I leave the house? I usually, my schedule, I wake up, I work out for a few hours, and then I get right into my day. And so what is my legacy today with the people I'm interacting with? What is my legacy today for myself? What have I done to nurture or grow or learn and gain knowledge? And then what is my legacy today in the short scheme of things? What is it with the people I interact with? Something as simple as holding a door at a convenience store for somebody, a smile. We don't ever know what people are going through. There could be somebody who's at home, has an abusive spouse, and they were sent to the grocery store to buy something. You holding a door, giving a smile and a compliment might change the demeanor of that person who was just at home being beat up by a spouse or something. Or they could be depressed or suicidal. So I try to look at, like, what is my legacy today? Did I hold the door for somebody today? Did I smile? Did I give a compliment? Did I pay for somebody's food in the drive-through as I went through for the car behind me? Did I offer to pay for someone's lunch, a perfect stranger that I don't know in a restaurant that I'm indulging myself? These are things I try to do every day. These are things that I've started to make a habit of. Because I it's not to me so important about what people remember me by, but it's important to myself each day that I reflect on, yesterday I did this, and today I want to do better than that. And so what I did yesterday that was an achievement and legacy to me, today I want to make a bigger legacy and impact. But the big thing is people think of the image, and it's not the image for me for what people think. For me, it's what I know I'm doing each day better.
Exactly.
Yes, it's kind of that whole personal individual journey for me is my legacy each day. How important am I? Am I really making an impact? Whether it's I had a friend, we used to go to the beach and we'd pick up cigarette butts. We'd be down there in our swim trunks and we'd have swim trunk pockets full of cigarette butts that we'd pick up on the beach that people would just throw. And that was what we would do when we were at the beach. We'd swim, then we'd pick up cigarette butts. And then by the end of the day, we'd have a big bundle that we'd throw away. We thought we were making an impact. And that's how I feel each day now is, what am I doing to make an impact that it's not just self-serving me and helping me grow, but in the midst of the energy I'm putting off throughout my day, I feel that I'm helping other people along the way and making an impact on the earth.
It's so good. It's totally resonating with me and my philosophy and the way I live. I also, everywhere I go, I collect garbage,
Right.
like at least 10 garbages a day, plastic lying around in nature. And it's not about that somebody sees it or acknowledge me for that, as you say, because I know that, okay, so if I do this and I'm going to be 100 years old and I take 10 garbage things a day, when I walk, more, it doesn't matter, but at least 10, it's going to be tons. By the end of a lifetime. Exactly.
And it's one less thing that an animal would be impacted by, or some other creature, or anything.
And also for our kids. I mean, what kind of messy world do we want to leave to our kids? Me, for sure, I want my kids to have a better, upbringing, and better opportunities and better choices than I had. But the way the world is looking right now, because we should do another show and talk about timelines, because
for sure
we need to choose timelines. It's up to you now, guys. We can choose a timeline where we choose fear, and masks and restrictions and obedience, or we can choose from love. What is good for me? And from this space, what is good for me, I can also serve, because this is why we are here. We are here to serve others.
And I, that's so strong for me, because again, that's kind of where I'm at on my journey in life is, I'm literally in that moment, and that's just the groove I'm in. It's the lane I've been in for probably the past 2 years. And I like it right now. Next year I could be doing something totally different, but right now, for at least the past 2 years, my main focus has been, what am I offering other people around me?
Yes, exactly.
And at the same time, still taking that time to look in that mirror and know what worth I have to me, and what things are healthy or not healthy that I am thinking about myself.
Exactly. So I want to round it up by saying, so it all starts with me. It all starts with you. It all starts with each and one individual. And to work with the breath is one way of getting a greater, bigger consciousness, raising from the 5% that we have to, maybe 8, I don't know, but to decrease the unconscious patterns and behaviors and actions, and to increase the consciousness. And it all starts with the breath, because, from the moment you were born, you took a breath, and the moment when you are dying, you are leaving it back with a breath. And so it starts with,
the breathing.
You are contributing to the better world, and together we can make a difference. So if you want to have, breathing exercises with me, or consultations, or doing a soul reading, who you are at the soul level, just please connect with me. I'm sure Eugene will have the link or on your...
I do. I have ulliskarlsson.com is your website, and I'm looking at that myself. It's on my other screen. So we want to encourage our audience to go check that out. There's a lot of information there. While we were talking, I was kind of clicking through some of it. It talks about your tailor-made programs that you do. And I'm trying, here it goes. So yoga consultation, Into the Eye of the Storm. It has soul coaching and mentoring, soul reading, in building. What is that? Explain that a little bit.
Inbildning, it's a Swedish word.
Okay. Yeah, because I couldn't even pronounce it.
No, we do so many educations. Like studying to become something. This is an inner education where you work yourself from the inside and out.
Okay.
Yes. So the site might not be updated, but just connect with me, and I'd be happy to talk to you, or to guide you. And the books are on Amazon.
Okay. And I encourage everybody to check this out. Check out the website again, ulliskarlsson.com. And I again encourage you guys, and I'm going to let you real quick tell us the name of all three books real quick.
Yes. So the first one is 2:47 a.m., The Journey Home to My Heart, my autobiography about journeying from mental illness into health and abundance. And the second book is only in Swedish, but it's called Embracing Feminine Leadership. And then the third book, Holy Fuck and Sacred Water and the Secret Connections to Everything.
And I'm going to say, holy fuck, I need to have you back on here so we can dig a little deeper, because I can tell, like, we could probably just keep hitting on topic after topic after topic and taking it different ways. And so I encourage, I want to do that in the future. I definitely want to have you back on.
I would love to.
For sure. I want to, because I want to dig deeper. You know, what we talked about today, I think is a great a preliminary for our audience to understand what you do, who you are, how you are, but also just kind of gives a little teaser, I guess, into what you really, how deep your teachings go and your discipline. And I think it's important that we dive into that later in the future, I think.
Yeah, I would love to.
I'd love to have you back at a later date.
I would love to. And it's been really nice to be here. So thank you so much for the opportunity and for this really heartfelt conversation. And oh my God, we could talk for hours, because there's so many things also that needs to come into the light of consciousness by being talked about, or so we can raise the consciousness.
Yes.
Everything that is still in the shadows or not talked about or not expressed, it's gonna have to be transformed one way or the other.
Yep, I agree. I want you to know, again, you're welcome to come back anytime. We will definitely reach out and have you back. If there's any other new promotions that come up, I tell all my guests this: if there's something new that comes up or something changes, you can reach out to us and we can immediately try to get you on an episode right away to kind of promote. And so we try to offer that to all our guests. Sometimes, they'll be in the middle of writing a book, and then the book will come out and they'll want to jump right back in and start promoting. And so I encourage you, if something comes up or changes, or you just have a new program you want to share, before we can get you back in the future, for sure, let's do it.
Thanks. Yeah, that's exciting. And if you by chance want to have the book signed, just, mail me and I send them all the way from Sweden.
That'd be awesome. And like I said, I was just talking to one of my guests yesterday. I try to pick up or at least read the books of all my guests. And I never have enough time to sit and read through a whole book, but I've got a bunch that I kind of am going chapter by chapter through each one, just to learn about what they're promoting and what they're teaching and stuff. So
that's great.
It's been a great time having you here. I wish you the best. I hope that you guys start getting more sun there, because it's just too dark. It's just too dark.
I have to wait till the summer, then the sun never sets. So.
Yeah, and see, that would be me. I'd be at the beach every day if the sun stayed up for me. That's where I'd be. I'd have the best tan in the world.
Yeah.
But that's, again, I can't wait to have you back. Have a great day, and we'll do this again.
Yes, and thank you for having me and for listening. Thank you.
Yes, for sure.